nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
I shot him. Court orders 84-year-old to stand trial in Ralph Yarl shooting. Andrew Lester will stand trial in the shooting of Ralph Yarl in a Kansas City Northland neighborhood earlier this year, a judge ruled Thursday. Clay County Judge Louis Angles found during a preliminary hearing that prosecutors presented sufficient evidence to establish probable cause that Lester had committed a crime. Angles set Lester's arraignment for 9 a.m. on September 20. The 84-year-old Lester is the white Kansas City homeowner who was charged with first-degree assault and armed criminal action in the shooting of Yarl, who is black, on April 13. During the hearing, prosecutors played a recording of a 911 call Lester made to police at 9:52 p.m. "I just had somebody ring my damn doorbell. He wasn't in my house but I shot him," he told the operator. He described the person as black and 6 feet tall. "He was at my door trying to get in, and I shot him," Lester said. "That's all I remember." Asked where his weapon was, Lester told the operator it was sitting right next to him. The operator said EMS was on its way. Yarl, who was 16 years old at the time, had mistakenly gone to the wrong address while trying to pick up his younger brothers from a similar address one street over. Yarl had mixed up Northeast 115th Terrace and Northeast 115th Street. When the teen rang the doorbell, Lester allegedly shot Yarl twice, once in the head and once in the arm. Yarl later told police he was shot immediately after Lester opened the door, and he overheard Lester say, "Don't come around here." During an interview with police, Lester accused Yarl of pulling his door handle, an account initially disputed by Yarl and his family, and said he shot him because he was scared to death of the tall, black stranger at his door. In testimony Thursday, Yarl said he saw the main door open, so he started to pull at the storm door, assuming he'd be welcomed in. The case grabbed international attention, as activists said the shooting highlights long-standing racism in Kansas City's Northland as well as across the country. Lee Merritt, a civil rights attorney representing the Yarl family, said the teenager was shot because he was armed with nothing other than his black skin. Lester wasn't charged until 4 days after the shooting. He has pleaded not guilty. Angles began the hearing by describing it as mini-trial of sorts. He said the burden of proof rested solely with the state. The state planned to bring 12 witnesses forward, including Yarl. Seated in the small courtroom were Yarl's father, Paul Yarl, Aunt Faith Spoonmore, and other relatives. Many wore blue shirts that read, "Ringing a doorbell is not a crime." 3 of Lester's neighbors testified Thursday morning, laying out a timeline of who helped Yarl and when. In the days after the shooting, family had said Yarl attempted to get help from neighbors but was denied. Begging for help. Thursday's testimony laid out a more complete picture of what happened when Yarl begged for help that night, and why neighbors didn't initially open their doors. During her testimony, Carol Connard noted that at about 9:30 p.m. on April 13, she saw a car pull into Lester's driveway. She found it odd, she said, because she hadn't seen someone stop by her neighbor's house that late in years. She said it was highly unusual for somebody to be pulling in the driveway that late at night. Then, she heard 2 bangs, then someone screaming at the top of their lungs, she said. Her husband, Robert Connard, called 911 first, after he heard his wife screaming from the front of the house. He ran to the front of the house and saw a person in the shadows by the neighbor's house yelling that he'd been shot, Connard said. He turned his porch light on as Yarl started coming his way. "Get your ass back in the house and lock the door," he testified that his wife yelled to him. So he closed the door and heard Yarl pulling at the door handle. Connard said he was startled, but didn't get out any of the guns he owns. "My concern at that point is we still didn't know who else was involved," Connard said. Carol Connard testified that she told her husband to close the door because she was scared of what else was outside. She knew someone had been shot and feared for her safety. Connard said she eventually spoke with Yarl through the window, still not opening the door. She advised him to get in the street, where he was visible, sit down and stay calm, and that help was on the way. Yarl then went across the street to the home of Jody Dovell. She didn't hear the gunshots, but she heard the pounding at her door. The person seemed to jiggle the door and shouted for help. Dovell testified that, not knowing what was going on or if she was being robbed, she called 911. In a recording of her 911 call that was played in court, Dovell was heard telling the operator that a black male was on his knees outside her house, near her mailbox pleading for someone to please help. She told the operator that while she's a healthcare professional, she was not going to go outside because she didn't know what was happening and because it was dark. "I don't want you to go out there," the operator responded. "Stay away from the windows and doors." Dovell hung up the phone and kept watching out the window. Once she saw another neighbor, including Connard, go out to the street to stand by Yarl, she also ran out. As she left her home, she noticed the trail of blood leading up her porch, on her railing, on her stairs and in a pool under Yarl's head on the street. When she got to Yarl's side, he was alert. His 2 gunshot wounds were obvious, Dovell said. She tried to keep him calm as he told her that he had been trying to pick up his brothers. She asked what school he went to as her son grabbed towels for her to press against Yarl's head wound. When police arrived, Robert Connard, who is retired from the U.S. Postal Service, said he led them to the home of Lester, his neighbor of more than 35 years. Connard said Lester has always been a good neighbor to him. "I've never heard him make any kind of off-color comment," he said. He said that Lester was living alone. His wife was in a nursing home. Yarl, who is now 17, started his senior year last week at Staley High School in Kansas City's Northland. The hearing provided the public a first glimpse at the evidence gathered in the case. A judge in May granted a protective order because of ongoing threats and harassment toward Lester. The judge's decision sealed all discovery in the case, preventing the public from viewing certain filings, including materials and evidence that could be used at trial.
I wanted to give the update about Ralph Yarl and also Andrew Lester in this case. The more stuff comes out, the more disgusted I am by this whole thing. To hear that they are trying to protect this old, decrepit, evil SOB is just beyond me. He deserves anything that he gets because he knows good and dang on well that that teenage boy was not 6 feet tall. He was on the slimmer side, and he wasn't trying to break in. He wasn't jiggling the lock. That's why he said he wasn't in the home. He knocked on the door, but you shot him through a locked glass door. He's sitting there waiting on his twin brothers. And he said he waited for a while. And he also said that the neighbors wouldn't help him. And you see, through the words out of their own mouth, it's just something that is sickening on that block. Because you hear 2 gunshots, you see someone who is slender and a teenager running up, begging and pleading on their knees for help. You are a healthcare professional, and I just did a video about nurses and the racism in healthcare. This is a nurse. I was scared because it was dark. The operator, don't go out there. You see someone bleeding. You see someone hurt. This is a victim. And I guarantee you, if he had been colorless with blue eyes and blonde hair, he wouldn't have made it to the nurse's house because the first couple would have helped him. And anybody who says that's not the case, you're full of ish. No weapon in his hand. He's hurt and bleeding, and nobody will help him. Told him to go in the middle of the street until help came. Even the woman who was at the door, the husband thought about going and getting a gun because somebody is knocking on their door, frantically needing help. Usually people who are trying to harm you or rob you, they're not knocking on your door. They're not just strolling up to your door. Like, it sickened me to hear this and everything that transpired and how putrid every single neighbor was to allow a teenager, a kid, bleed out because they're so effing terrified. And you have to ask, in a progressive nation, what are you scared of? Everything has been hashed out. We're a melting pot. The majority of people here, everything is good. It's not the way it used to be. You ninjas that won't stop talking about this and bringing it up, you're the one who's making this bubble forward. So if everything is good, why not go out and help someone? Because the majority of people are good people. We're progressive. There's nothing to worry about. They were willing to let him die and bleed out. If you heard a gunshot and you didn't see a gun in the boy's hand and you see that he was wounded, it was clear. He's the one who had been shot and he's asking for help, begging and pleading for help. It disgusts me. And I'm going to say, if the roles were reversed, I say do the same. You give the energy that you get. If somebody is running around, they need help, something has happened, you need to take your safety into account and don't open the door. Don't help anyone, because I notice, there's a lot more POCs that's willing to help colorless people than in reverse. But like I said, this disgusted me. I'm going to continue to watch to see how this trial goes. So I'll go ahead and end it right here. Let me know what you thought about this update. What do you think about Andrew Lester? What do you think about these neighbors? That's what I want to know. Do you actually believe that they did the right thing, or do you think there's some bias, prejudice, and bigotry in there because of the skin tone of this boy? Please let me know that in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one.